He has been accused of second-degree murder, and I've stayed very far away from this because there is also another police officer that's a witness against this officer. And I said, listen, until I have information, I'm not picking sides on this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to throw either one of these cops under the bus. Not my style. It's not my style in any case. I'm not going to throw someone under the bus unless I think I'm informed enough to make a decision. And in this case, I haven't been. But one thing I can tell you that I believe is happening here is that there has not just been a rush to judgment on some parts, but there's been a rush to accusation on some people's parts. And let me tell you what I mean. The county attorney, the interim county attorney, Rick Romley, and, you know, there's no secret in the fact that I like Mr. Romley. I knew him back in 2004. We did some speaking things together, a lot of respect for his service in the military. So this is nothing personal, all right? But the office, and I believe, I'm just going to give you my personal take on this. You had an issue that happened not too long ago. Councilman Michael Johnson accused a police officer of racism. Him and Michael Nowakowski, Cisse Puede, letter from Nation of Islam, all these things were happening. South Phoenix is racist, and the cops are racist, and there are stormtroopers and Gestapo, and all this stuff was being shouted. Well, now you've got this incident that happened. Well, instead of doing it based on evidence alone, I believe there's either some political pressure or there's some political knee-jerk reaction going on. Because the Phoenix PD was going to fire this cop, Chrisman. They were going to fire him. Before the investigations were done, he was going to be fired. A judge stopped that from happening. Now, I don't know that that's ever happened before in the state of Arizona, that a judge told them you cannot fire him until the investigations are complete. You've got to finish the work before you can fire him. Well, now, and tomorrow, I'm promising you this, tomorrow, you are going to hear some audio tomorrow that nobody else has. We didn't have time to put it together today. You're going to hear some audio tomorrow nobody else has. That's as much as I can tell you right now. But this guy, Chrisman, has been accused. Well, the lawyer that is Ted Duffy, according to this filing, prosecutors Juan Martinez and Ted Duffy omitted facts and ignored questions from the first grand jury. That's been the question all along. There's not enough evidence to support murder charges. And the story's always been, and there's attorneys that listen to the show, that a prosecutor could indict a ham sandwich if they want to because they control what evidence gets put in front of a grand jury to get an indictment. Was this a rush to get an indictment? And here's why I'm so concerned about it. Two reasons. The first and foremost is this officer's livelihood and life beyond. He's never going to be a cop again, I don't think. Where could he be a cop? Right? I mean, this is going to be hanging over his head. But what's he going to do in the future? So you better be darn sure before you make these kind of judgments. And secondly, what's most concerning to me is Rick Romley's out. Rick Romley's not the county attorney anymore. You're going to have Bill Montgomery will be the county attorney. What kind of a firestorm, and I'm using the word fire instead of the word I think should be used here, is Bill Montgomery walking into? Because now, if there isn't enough evidence to support these charges, it's going to look like Montgomery had something to do with it. And if they can't, they can't support these charges, the people in South Phoenix are going to blame the county attorney's office when maybe these charges should have never been brought yet. Maybe there was information later on, but based on what they had, they're saying that's not true. But here's the deal. You're hearing from defense attorneys, and this is a quote, that doesn't surprise me at all. What does surprise me is that anyone would put him in charge of another murder case. This according to a defense attorney. Mr. Duffy did a lot of things during a trial that, in my opinion, were just outrageous. They say Duffy's misconduct included introducing evidence that he was told not to, making statements about evidence that simply were not true, and the judge agreed. And after notifying the bar, Duffy, who was one of the prosecutors that went to the grand jury in the Chrisman case, Duffy was suspended for 30 days and given probation for 1 year. He was suspended and put on probation. Now, I know I'm risking something here, and that's people saying, Mike, you're always defending cops. Fair enough. I get it. I get the criticism. But listen for a moment. What if this were you? Forget the fact this is a police officer. What if this were you? And you said, listen, I didn't do this. I understand what you're saying. What I did was self-defense, and I believe we've got holes to poke in this guy's defense, but how can you possibly, based on a statement by one person, all this quickly, charge me with murder? And then you found out the prosecutor that was the one in charge of the grand jury hearing went to the grand jury and was submitting testimony and was in charge of what gets in and what doesn't. You found out that that lawyer had been suspended and put on probation for conduct during a trial. It just makes me concerned with who the county attorney's office is sending to the grand jury hearings. I am not proclaiming Officer Chrisman innocent of all charges. I'm not here to just solely defend cops. There's another cop that's a witness that I don't want to throw under the bus. I'm just saying to you that one thing I do know is that something's going on politically that is rushing this through to charge this cop. And in the end, let's say what could be the worst case scenario in all of this for those of you that believe this cop is guilty. What if the cop is guilty? And what if, because of how this has been handled, there are so many questions that it gets tossed out? Couple of words for you, O.J. Simpson.